Chapter 31. Not a single strand of wool shall be left. For the sake of emotion points, Yunjin put on quite the show with her 50 flips. Back flips, front flips, consecutive flips, one-handed flips, side flips, she did them all. She even deliberately messed up one of the flips for added effect. Unfortunately, the emotional points didn't seem to increase much. Yunjin immediately felt a bit disappointed. It seemed that these days, emotional points weren't so easy to harvest. Had her flashy antics become too frequent, and everyone was used to them by now? That wasn't a good sign. Before long, Yunjin finished her routine. She had taken the flip so seriously that, just as she completed the final one, a sudden wave of sword technique comprehension hit her. The impact nearly caused her to stumble. The crowd. Zhao Wuji chuckled.
Well, now that you've finished your flips, are you saying you've mastered the technique?
His tone was dripping with sarcasm. Yunjin, however, nodded earnestly.
I think I have.
Still being stubborn, Zhao Wuji sneered coldly.
Then show us.
Unhurriedly, Yunjin walked over and picked up the sword she had casually tossed aside earlier.
This sword technique is actually quite interesting,
she said with a slight smile, and then suddenly made her move. In the next moment, her figure had already shifted to another place. Her body and sword sometimes separated, sometimes converged, creating an eerie and mesmerizing elegance.
Ding. Already mastered 6 high-tier, Huan-level sword technique. Master all 10 to unlock simplification. Once simplified, it can be upgraded to a low-tier, Shui-level sword technique.
The system's prompt sounded in her mind. Yunjin's eyes lit up slightly. Oh, master 10 high-tier Huang-level sword techniques, and you can upgrade to Shui level. Even if it was only low-tier Shui, that still crossed an entire grade boundary. Across the entire Tianxing sect, Huang-level sword techniques were countless, but there were only 3 Xue-level sword manuals. From Huang to Xue, it was a qualitative leap. Yet with the simplification system in her hands, she could seemingly mass-produce Xue-level manuals. The system's prompt didn't slow Yunjin down. She continued executing the attribution sword technique. Sword Elder watched her demonstration with eyes full of wonder. He had trained in this sword style himself. Even with his advanced understanding of swordsmanship, it had taken him several hours to fully grasp it. And Yunjin? She had merely glanced at it, and already mastered it. As for her odd behavior flipping around earlier, Sword Elder now understood the reasoning behind it. She must have realized from the start that this technique differed from ordinary manuals, and required a certain level of physical conditioning. So she had used the flips to loosen her body, to prepare for the technique. Sword Elder's gaze was full of admiration. Yunjin truly was extraordinary. He had made the right decision coming here today. When she finished her demonstration, Yunjin sheathed her sword, expression calm as ever. She quickly checked her emotional points. Crap. Between the flips and the sword technique, she had only gained 800 points. Sure, that might be because they'd already provided plenty earlier. But still, this wasn't enough. As the old saying goes, pluck as much wool as you can from the sheep. And another saying, leaving even a single strand behind is a crime, Yunjin said casually.
Sword Elder, don't bother bringing out such simple techniques next time. I think only teen-level sword techniques pose any real challenge to me. It's a shame this little Tianxing sect doesn't even have one. If nothing else, give me that D-level Azure Lotus sword technique, and I guess I could still reluctantly settle for that.
Yunjin stood tall and proud, radiating the aura of someone destined for unrivaled glory. Everyone's jaws dropped. They had seen arrogance before, but this. She opened her mouth and demanded a Tian-level technique. Did she even understand what that meant? Those sword manuals only exist in the Holy Lands. And she could reluctantly settle for D-level techniques. No one in the Tianxing sect had ever mastered a D-level sword technique. Not even Ninya, the once lauded sword genius, or the current sect master, Zhao Wuji. Even Sword Elder was taken aback, though he chuckled in the next moment.
Yunjin, are you saying you want to learn a D-level sword technique?
Before Yunjin could respond, Zhao Wuji couldn't help but cut in.
Sword Elder, this girl is arrogant beyond measure. She's only just learned a few high-tier Huan techniques and dares to covet level sword techniques. With such hubris, she'll never make it far on the path of cultivation.
Yunjing immediately struck a pose, lifted her chin, and said arrogantly,
The mediocre will never understand the terror of true talent.
Emotional points plus 200.
Yunjing grinned at Zhao Wuji. Oh, this sect master was a goldmine for emotional points. She quickly added,
In this lifetime, I am destined to be invincible. Every step I take will make me the strongest at that level. I will surpass you all, one by one, and I encourage you to chase after me. Until one day you can no longer see my back.
Plus 200. Plus 50. Plus 10.
Oh shit. There's still some points left to harvest. So they'd become immune to sword demonstrations. But not to Chunabu monologues. Yunjing immediately stomped on the ground, pointed at the sky, and shouted,
I want the heavens to no longer shield my eyes. I want the earth to no longer bury my heart. I want all beings to understand my will. I want the gods and Buddhists to vanish into smoke.
The crowd fell silent. Uncomfortably silent. Lin Ya stared at Yunjin, bewildered. What kind of troublemaker had he taken in as a disciple? And that last line. Is she not afraid that the gods and Buddhists might actually hear her?
Plus 300. Plus 100. Plus 100.
Yunjin blinked, then beamed. Bless you all. She had worked so hard, flipping and performing sword techniques, only to gain one drop of emotional points at a time. But a few lines of delusional theatrics. Boom, points skyrocketed. Yunjin made a firm decision. From now on, she would carve dramatic one-liners into her flesh and blood. Every appearance would begin with a speech.
Quite the ambition.
Sword Elder stammered, finally breaking the silence.
Acceptable?
Yunjin said with a faint smile.
You arrogant brat.
Zhao Wuji couldn't help but sneer.
You better pray the gods and Buddhas. Don't hold a grudge. One bolt of lightning could strike you dead.
Yunjin smirked wickedly.
Is that so? I think it's the gods and Buddhas who should pray that I don't hold a grudge. Otherwise, I'll turn this world upside down.
The crowd. Even Sword Elder couldn't bear to listen to her. Sure, the gods wouldn't really mind a disciple saying things like that. But still, shouldn't she be a little more careful? He couldn't help but bring the conversation back.
Yunjin, let's stay on topic. Are you saying you wish to cultivate a D-level technique?
Before Yunjin could answer, Zhao Wuji's expression changed.
Sword Elder, you've seen for yourself how arrogant she is. Utterly unfit to accomplish anything of worth. Maybe she has a bit of talent in swordsmanship, but she has a 5-element root. With 5-element root, she'll never reach nascent soul stage. Even if she has an innate sword body. So what?
At that moment, Zhao Wuji was immensely relieved. Relieved that Yunjin only has a 5-element root. Otherwise, with her personality, she would have already turned the entire sect upside down. And truth be told, his words weren't entirely wrong. Sword Elder couldn't help but hesitate for a moment. Yunjin raised an eyebrow.
Who says 5-element root cultivators can't reach nascent soul stage? I already told you I'm a genius, and geniuses aren't bound by common logic.
Zhao Wuji sneered. Genius or not remained to be seen, but her shamelessness and arrogance. Unmatched in the whole world. Chapter 32. Tian Level. Azure Lotus Sword Technique. Sword Elder carefully examined Yunjin. If it had been anyone else saying such things, he would have found it utterly laughable. But Yunjin. She was the remarkable young woman who had stunned him time and time again from the moment she appeared. What made her truly formidable was that even when saying the most outrageous things, she could deliver them with such serious conviction, as if they were the absolute truth. Just like now, when speaking of the insurmountable gap between a 5-element root cultivator and reaching the nascent soul stage, she showed not a trace of concern. That confident demeanor of hers made it seem like she had absolute certainty of breaking through. Sword Elder watched her and slowly began to smile.
Sword Elder.
Zhao Wuji sensed that something was wrong and spoke anxiously. But Sword Elder replied calmly.
Yunjin, since you claim to be a genius, then you should be able to do what others cannot. Do you agree?
Yunjin nodded.
Of course.
Good.
Sword Elder said slowly.
Then listen carefully. Within the Tianxing sect, there indeed exists a D-level sword technique, the Azure Lotus Sword Technique. It originally came from Kunlun Sword Sect and was left here to await a fated person. In fact, the version within the Tianxin sect is only a small part of the complete Azure Lotus Sword Technique. The full version is 10 level.
He looked at the Yunjin meaningfully.
Oh, teen level. That might barely be worth practicing.
Yunjin replied casually. Sword Elder. He really shouldn't have expected this girl to say anything normal. Sword Elder continued.
As a disciple of the Kunlun Sword Sect, I am also responsible for finding a worthy successor. I can authorize you to learn the Azure Lotus Sword Technique.
That's great.
Yunjin said cheerfully. Sword Elder narrowed his eyes.
Whether you truly possess the innate sword body can only be determined by how quickly you learn sword techniques. So Yunjin, if you want to study the Azure Lotus Sword Technique, I have one condition.
Yunjin's expression turned serious.
Please tell me.
Within 1 year,
Sword Elder said slowly.
you must attain entry-level mastery of this technique. If you can do that, it may not be impossible for you to eventually learn the full version. But if you fail,
He added with a blank expression.
then you are not the one I am searching for.
The innate sword body was far too important to the Kunlun sword sect. If Yunjin's talent with swordsmanship was truly that frightening, then while it was true that a 5-element route made cultivation difficult, if backed by a Holy Land's full support, breaking through the bottleneck to nascent soul stage might not be so impossible. But to gain the full backing of such a sect, Yunjin had to show value strong enough to move the hearts of all. Mastering the Azure Lotus Sword Technique within 1 year. That was Sword Elder's condition.
1 year.
Yunjin blinked in surprise. Zhao Wuji let out a small breath of relief, and even allowed a faint smile to appear. He had thought Sword Elder had lost his mind. But clearly he was still very clear-headed. They had also tried to learn this Azure Lotus Sword technique themselves. Forget 1 year, even 10 years hadn't been enough to gain entry-level mastery. Yunjin was just a new disciple. Expecting her to master it in 1 year. That was utterly impossible.
Afraid?
Sword Elder raised an eyebrow.
No.
Yunjin shook her head honestly.
I just think you're really kind. I was thinking 3 months would be enough, and you're giving me a whole year.
Sworder. Stay calm. He needs to stay calm. This was just Yunjin's unique way of speaking. She couldn't possibly mean that literally. Right. She definitely didn't. He took a deep breath and asked.
So you agree?
Yunjin nodded.
But what if someone tries to interfere with my sword training during the year?
Sword Elder glanced meaningfully at Zhao Wuji. Zhao Wuji's expression was slightly stiff.
That kind of thing won't happen in Tianxing sect. This last incident was simply a misunderstanding.
Sword Elder said directly.
As long as I'm here, I guarantee you a year of peace.
And that guarantee should also include my master and senior brothers and sister. They must be safe too.
Yunjin added. Sword Elder didn't refuse.
Agreed.
Right in front of Zhao Wuji, he handed Yunjin a jade pendant.
This jade pendant allows you to contact me directly. If anyone causes you trouble, just tell me.
Thank you, Sword Elder.
Yunjin said sweetly, happily storing the jade pendant away. Her original plan had been to draw out Sword Elder and use him to protect Heavenly Sword Peak for 3 months. Once Nia's cultivation recovered, they would no longer have anything to fear. Now that Sword Elder had granted a full year of protection, which is so much better. Zhao Wuji's gaze flickered. 1 year with Sword Elder's promise, he couldn't make a move within that time. But, if Nia loses 3 months from now, he would definitely lose his position as Peak Master. That was the sect's rule. He would simply be following the rules, and no one could accuse him of wrongdoing. When that time came, even if he didn't kill Nia, It would be all too easy to torment him behind the scenes. So Zhao Wuji simply lowered his gaze and said nothing more. Sword Elder looked at Yunjing and took out a golden page. In a calm voice, he said,
When you return, channel your spiritual sense into this page, and you will gain what you seek.
Yunjing took the page and asked,
Sword Elder, you're just giving it to me like this? Aren't you afraid I'll leak it?
Sword Elder replied calmly,
If someone else could learn it, I'd be glad. But let me be clear. The Azure Lotus Sword technique is extremely dangerous. If you practice it recklessly, at best you'll be injured, and at worst, your soul could be damaged.
Yunjing noticed that the others looked at the golden page not with greed, but with caution and dread. She instantly understood. This D-level sword technique was far from simple. But she wasn't worried at all. No matter how difficult it was, once she simplified it step by step, it would become easy. She currently had over 150 simplification attempts stored up. Could she really not find a way to simplify it?
Since Sword Elder has spoken,
Zhao Wuji said.
then we will all listen to him. Yunjin, study the sword technique well. Everyone may now disperse.
Yunjing frowned and said,
Disperse? Sect Master, I don't think that's right.
Him?
Zhao Wuji frowned. Yunjing pointed at Ruan Jun expressionlessly.
This person slandered me, accusing me of stealing techniques, and even tried to harm me. How should this matter be dealt with?
We have a recording stone as evidence.
Yue Zhao immediately stepped forward.
Sect Master, surely you're not planning to protect him just because he's your chief disciple.
Sword Elder also glanced over indifferently. Ruan Jun's expression tensed. He looked nervously at Zhao Wuji.
Master, I didn't mean to.
If everyone could avoid punishment by simply saying they didn't mean to, then what use are sect rules?
Yunjin's voice was cold.
According to sect rules, slandering and attempting to harm a fellow disciple warrants the abolishment of one's cultivation and expulsion from the sect. In severe cases, execution is justified. These are the rules. I ask that the sect master handle this fairly.
Ruan Jun's face turned pale as he looked toward Zhao Wuji in fear. He had done things like this before, many times. But as the sect master's chief disciple, no one had ever dared to touch him. This time, it would have been fine too. If Heavenly Sword Peak hadn't brought out someone like Sword Elder. If his master really intended to punish him. Ruan Jun felt his legs beginning to weaken. Chapter 33. If you're looking to die, at least do it right. Zhao Wuji glanced at Ruan Jun, paused for a moment, and then said slowly.
First of all, Ruan Jun truly did not act with malicious intent. Secondly, Yunjing was not actually harmed. If I were to punish him too harshly, it would also be unfair. I will not sacrifice my disciple's future, just to protect my own reputation. I, Zhao Wuji, will never use a disciple's life to uphold my name.
He spoke righteously, but in truth, this was simply a different way of saying he was covering for his disciple. Still, this justification sounded convincing enough. At least, Ruan Jun immediately looked deeply grateful. Yunjing narrowed her eyes.
Oh, he didn't harm me. Is it because he didn't want to, or because he couldn't? If you let him off so lightly, wouldn't that also be biased?
Zhao Wuji remained calm.
Ruan Jun acted rashly, and he does deserve a stern warning. So here's what I propose. To atone for my disciple's mistake, all resources allocated to Heavenly Sword Peak will be tripled for the next year. And these will come from my personal stores. Are you satisfied now?
Tripled resources, he said. But in truth, there were plenty of ways to manipulate such resources. Even if the quantity couldn't be altered, what about the quality? It would be easy enough to tamper with. Yunjing narrowed her eyes. Zhao Wuji was shameless. Confidently shameless too. To put it bluntly, he was relying on his father in Qingxiao Pavilion. Yunjing, like everyone else, was a native of this world. She knew full well how terrifying the so-called Four Great Holy Lands were. Outside of the Holy Lands, the nascent soul stage was the peak of cultivation. But within the Holy Lands, even someone as powerful as Sword Elder was just an emissary-level disciple. And the talents of those disciples from those Holy Lands were monstrous. In the original novel, Ye Danxia passed the Qingxiao Pavilion's test, and became one of their disciples. Among the 4 great holy lands, Kunlun Sword Sect was originally the leader. But once the heroine entered Qingxiao Pavilion, everything changed. Later, during the demonic uprising, sword cultivators led the charge against the demons. Even the demon lord was supposedly slain in one strike by the Kunlun Sword Sect's leader. However, at the time of his death, the demon lord had been cultivating a secret technique. That attack merely allowed him to undergo nirvana and be reborn, shedding his demonic body and taking human form. In the end, the reborn demon lord returned to Kunlun Sword Sect, and when he drove his sword into the sect leader's chest, he whispered,
"When? You killed me back then? Did you ever imagine this day would come?"
The sword sect leader finally recognized the man as the once feared demon lord. But it was too late. He died with his eyes wide open, never able to speak the truth. And the demon lord, he framed the Kunlun Sword Sect as colluding with demonic cultivators, and became a celebrated hero of the righteous path. For Ye Danxiai, he had personally annihilated the demon race. Together, they became heroes of the realm, admired by all. But now that Yunjing had been reborn, she had only one goal. Anyone who was an enemy of the male and female leads would be her ally. Whoever they wanted dead, she would protect. More importantly, whether it was Niyai or the sword cultivators, who later descended to exterminate demons, Yunjing believed none of them had done anything wrong. They had simply stood in the way of the protagonists. For that, they were labeled as villains and destroyed. This world's heavenly Tao was unjust. So this time around, she would be the one to correct it. As for the Kunlun Sword Sect, Yunjing fully intended to visit them someday. But for now, her goal wasn't to keep a low profile. On the contrary, she needed to display her value as quickly as possible. Sword Elder might currently regard her highly, but at best, that meant he'd ensure her safety, and maybe say a few words in her defense. To make him truly stand up for her, and even going against Zhao Wuji, that was unrealistic. Sword Elder didn't fear Zhao Wuji, but why would he make an enemy for no good reason? Even though he had given Yunjing the jade pendant, if she constantly ran to him with problems once, he'd help. Twice, he might still help. But 3 or 4 times, he would only start to see her as incapable. That's why, Yunjing had to resolve this matter herself. She couldn't always rely on Sword Elder's strength. At this moment, Sword Elder watched the situation unfold with great interest. Those who knew the full story were aware that this so-called punishment was basically no punishment at all for Ruan Jun, and was completely unfair to Yunjing. But, in a world where the strong prey on the weak, when has there ever truly been fairness? If Yunjing wanted fairness, she would have to seize it for herself. If she asked him for help, he would step in this time. However, his opinion of her might drop. Yunjing didn't even glance at Sword Elder. Instead, she calmly turned to Ruan Jun and said,
Senior Brother Rare, regarding what happened today, so many eyes were watching. Everyone here knows the truth in their hearts. But I also understand something else. Justice only exists where the sword can reach. Only strength is the true foundation. Earlier my senior brother challenged you to a life or death duel, and you didn't dare accept. So what if it were me instead? If I challenge you to a life or death battle, do you dare accept?
You.
Ruan Jun thought he had measured.
Of course not now. My cultivation is still too low.
Yunjing said steadily.
But 3 months from now, during the 10 Peaks ranking battle, disciples from all 10 Peaks will compete. I will fight then. And at that time you and I shall settle this with our lives.
Little junior sister.
Si Wanning's pupils constricted sharply. Xiao Jinghu, she's being reckless? Sure, her cultivation progress was unconventional. But no matter what, she was still only at the key refining stage. And Ruan Jun was already at the nascent soul stage. Even if Yunjing managed to reach the foundation establishment stage in 3 months, a foundation establishment cultivator against a nascent soul stage, that was still a death sentence.
What do you say?
Yunjing asked again, her expression calm. Ruan Jun finally snapped out of his shock. Realizing she was serious, he couldn't help but laugh. 3 months later, she thought she could challenge a nascent soul stage cultivator. A life or death duel. Seriously. If you're looking to die, there's got to be a better way than this.
Wait, little junior sister, you.
Yue Zhao opened his mouth to try to stop Yunjing, but Ruan Jun had already spoken eagerly.
Since junior sister has such confidence, How could I, as your senior brother, disappoint you? I accept this life or death challenge.
The faces of everyone from Heavenly Sword Peak instantly changed. Su Wanming glared at Ruanjun, furious. Even if little junior sister was a bit reckless, for Ruanjun to accept this, he clearly had no shame.
Why are you all looking at me like that?
Ruanjun said smugly.
It's not like I suggested this. She challenged me, and it would be rude to decline.
He smiled brilliantly. He had been worried that, with Sword Elder backing her, there wouldn't be a way to deal with Yunjin for the year. But now she proposed a life or death duel herself. Surely even Sword Elder couldn't object. Yunjin nodded.
Yes, I'm the one who proposed it. I'm glad you accepted.
She raised a brow.
But you've already failed to keep your word once. Didn't you say you would give me your head? Yet here it is, still attached. So what if you go back on your word again in 3 months?
May, go back on my word. Why would I need to?
Ruanjun laughed.
I want to bind this agreement with a formal contract.
Yunjin said slowly and clearly.
And I want to use the golden contract parchment.
Chapter 34. Find trouble from anyone else but Yunjin. Previously, when Yunjin dealt with Chen Hao, they had also signed a contract. But they had only used silver contract parchment, which required enforcement by the discipline hall. If they used a golden contract parchment, it would be recognized under the heavenly Tao. If either party went back on the agreement, they would face divine punishment. Yunjin pressed aggressively, and Ruanjun couldn't help but laugh in anger.
Do you really believe that in 3 months, I'll lose to you?
It's not about belief. It's something that will definitely happen.
Yunjin said seriously. With the Azure Lotus Sword art in her hands, she had the potential to fight across cultivation levels. As long as she can reach Golden Core stage within 3 months, there is a strong chance she could win. For others, reaching Golden Core stage in just 3 months might seem like a fantasy. But for Yunjin, it wasn't impossible. Even if it's solely for the sake of refining the heaven-mending pill, she must reach Golden Core stage.
Golden contract parchment, is it?
Zhao Wuji suddenly smiled. A shimmering sheet of golden parchment appeared in his hand.
Both parties may channel their spiritual energy into this to establish the contract.
Zhao Wuji didn't think Ruanjun would lose. Since they now had a perfectly legitimate way to get rid of Yunjin, why not take it? Zhao Wuji glanced at Sword Elder.
Senior, while you promised her 1 year of peace, this is something she agreed to of her own accord. What do you think?
Sword Elder's expression was complicated, but he eventually said,
Since a contract is involved, I naturally will not interfere.
Xiaojing, you're still being too reckless.
Lin Ya said anxiously. He secretly sent her a voice transmission.
If you really want revenge on Ruanjun, your master will find a way to quietly get rid of him.
Yunjin hadn't yet learned how to use voice transmission, so she responded aloud, calmly.
Senior brother Ray, you promised to give me your head. Since you don't intend to keep that promise, I'll come take it myself.
Without hesitation, Yunjin pressed her spiritual energy into the golden parchment.
Since junior sister insists, I have no choice but to go along.
Ruanjun said with a helpless smile, but he quickly channeled his energy as well, afraid Yunjin might regret it. A moment later, both Yunjin and Ruanjun closed their eyes. They had successfully signed the contract. The contents were simple. A duel in 3 months. The winner lives. The loser dies. The contract was established. Heavenly law descended. The golden contract parchment vanished into thin air. It was now a sealed fate. The disciples of Heavenly Sword Peak all looked worried, but since Yunjin was so determined, they could only remain silent.
Well, that settles this matter.
Zhao Wuji said with a smile.
Shall we all disperse now?
Just a moment.
Yunjin nodded, then suddenly turned to another disciple, who had also once promised to give her his head. That disciple instinctively shrank back. Yunjin looked him in the eye.
You said you'd give me your head too. So, are we signing a life and death contract, or are you going to pay up to avoid disaster?
The disciple froze. Pay up to avoid disaster. He was only at the foundation establishment stage, and Yunjin's sword talent was simply too terrifying. Truth be told, he was a little scared.
Pay to avoid disaster, I guess.
The disciple said meekly. He timidly handed over a storage pouch.
Will this be enough?
Oh, A storage pouch. This was the first time Yunjin had ever received one in this lifetime. She checked the contents, then nodded with barely concealed reluctance.
Fine, we'll call it even.
The disciple visibly let out a breath of relief. Yunjin then turned to look at the others, who had been demonstrating techniques earlier. Those few panicked.
Junior Sister Yun, we never said we'd give you our heads.
Yunjin nodded.
That's true.
Just as they were about to relax, Yunjin continued.
But you deliberately practiced the wrong moves. It's obvious you weren't up to anything good. I think you should pay a price for that. Don't you agree? If not, once I reach Foundation establishment stage, I'll challenge each of you personally.
She said this with casual indifference. But the disciples' expressions immediately changed.
I'll pay too.
One of them said. This Yunjin clearly wasn't normal. Remember, never provoke a lunatic. The others nodded hastily in agreement. And just like that, Yunjin collected 4 more storage pouches.
Junior Sister Yun, since you've taken the contents, could we at least have the pouches back?
One of them couldn't help but ask. Low-grade storage pouches weren't particularly rare. But the way Yunjin took them so naturally was infuriating.
You're reluctant to part with a single low-grade pouch. Are the disciples of Tansing sect really this poor?
Yunjin asked with exaggerated surprise. The group, not exactly.
Then thank you, senior brothers.
Yunjin said cheerfully, tucking the pouches away. Low-grade pouches might not be worth much, but free is free. All they could do was silently watch. They were all thinking the same thing. If something involves Yunjin, don't get involved. This woman, she holds grudges. From Chen Hao to them, she hadn't let a single one off the hook. Even for Ruan Jun, she was dead set on a life or death battle with him. If her cultivation weren't so far below the others, they wouldn't be surprised if she went straight to challenging the sect master himself. With such a petty woman, it was best to keep your distance.
Sect master, it's okay to disperse now.
Yunjin asked. Zhao Wuji was speechless, but still replied coldly.
Disperse.
Ha! Let her enjoy her little triumph for 3 months. Zhao Wuji turned and walked away. Ye Danxia followed behind, but glanced back at Yunjin with concern, and added a touch of pretense to her image.
Xiaojin, why would you go so far as to sign a death contract? If you died, I'd be heartbroken.
Yunjin immediately replied.
Then tell senior brother Rar to kill himself. You and I are sisters and he's just a cheap senior brother. You know which one of us matters more, Densai?
Ruan Jun.
Densai, I'm counting on you.
Yunjin said with an encouraging smile.
Senior brother Rar likes you so much. Maybe he would really die for you? Xiaojin, you must be joking.
Ye Danxia forced a reply. She didn't dare stay any longer. Leaving behind a quick farewell, she hurried away. Heaven knows what Yunjin would say next. Yunjin watched her go, looking slightly regretful. Actually, she really liked talking to Ye Danxia. After all, Ye Danxia was #1 on her emotional points leaderboard. And the top contributor needed proper maintenance. She would be sure to reach out again for a little emotional farming later. Sword Elder gave Yunjin a long look, puzzled.
Girl, are you truly confident?
Yunjin smiled.
The path of the sword is to move ever forward. Who else, if not me?
Given a second chance at life, she had her own path. A path of vengeance repaid, and absolute dominance. She would walk this path until there were no more worthy opponents. Move ever forward. Who else, if not me? Sword Elder was momentarily stunned. He suddenly realized. This little girl hadn't been bluffing with her earlier words. She truly possessed the heart of the invincible. And yet, she only has a 5-element root. Where would she go from here? Sword Elder couldn't help but look forward to it.
I'll come watch the duel in 3 months,
he said.
Don't worry,
Yunjin replied coolly.
You'll watch me win, then cheer for me.
Sword Elder's lips twitched slightly before he floated away. Yunjin held her pose coolly, savoring the moment, when suddenly, thwack! She clutched her forehead in pain and dropped the act. With a pout, she asked,
Master, why did you hit me?
Chapter 35, The Marketplace. Lin Ya stared at Yunjin, the corners of his mouth twitching once, then again. Finally, he glared at her, exasperated.
What do you think I'm trying to do?
Yunjin thought for a moment, then replied with complete confidence.
I brought such great glory to our heavenly sword peak today. You must be trying to praise me. Go ahead, I can take it.
Teeth clenched, Lin Ya raised the wine gourd in his hand and swung it at her. Yunjin was dumbfounded. Dodging as she ran, she shouted.
Master, what are you doing? You're clearly being unreasonable. You're failing to recognize merit. Do you even know how to treat your heroes?
Hero, she said. Lin Ya grew even more furious. 1 incense sticks time later, at Heavenly Sword Peak, Yunjin sat there with a face full of indignation. Lin Ya glared at her.
3 months. You actually challenged a nascent soul stage cultivator. With just 3 months to prepare. Yunjin. There are better ways to die than this.
Lin Ya was truly furious. This little disciple of his clearly had a bright future ahead of her. If Kunlun Sword Sect were to take notice of her one day, she might finally be able to escape the muddy waters of Tianxing Sect. But instead, she had to be so arrogant as to challenge someone to a life or death duel. Yes, Zhao Wuji and his disciples were infuriating. Lin Ya had long been grinding his teeth in anger, but since his strength couldn't compare, he had no choice but to lie low for now.
Master, what's done is done. There's no use being angry now.
Yue Zhao said calmly.
That Renjun is slightly weaker than I am, but not by much. From now on, I'll personally give little junior sister special training. I'll beat her up a few hundred times a day. She's bound to improve a little.
Yunjin.
What?
Was that even human language? She strongly suspected this was Yue Zhao's twisted way of getting revenge.
If eldest senior brother gets tired, I can help too,
said Si Wanning sweetly. Yunjin.
Huh?
Even second senior sister.
That's actually a good idea.
Lin Ya sneered.
Then it's settled.
Hold on.
Yunjin hurried to speak up.
I know everyone is worried about me, but I really do have confidence.
Is it possible
Yue Zhao said with a smile.
that we just want to beat you up?
Yunjin blinked her sparkly Carslan eyes.
I don't believe that. I'm pure and adorable. None of you could bear to hurt me.
That face really was something else. For a moment, no one could say a word. Finally, Lin Ya sighed.
Let's talk business. Since your little junior sister has a life or death match in 3 months, all resources from now until then will be funneled toward her. If she dies, at least let her die gloriously. Any objections?
Yue Zhao and the others all shook their heads.
I've saved up a good amount of spirit stones.
Zhao said.
I'll convert them all into pills over the next few days and push little junior sister's cultivation up.
I'll look for a weapon that suits her,
added Si Wanning. Yu Songnian looked worried. What could he do?
Third junior brother, your job is to monitor her. Don't let her go flaunting her skills in public.
Yue Zhao assigned. That was a good task. Yu Songnian sighed in relief and readily agreed. Lin Ya turned to Yunjin.
For these next 3 months, I'll be watching you closely. But your top priority is still the Azure Lotus Sword technique. If you manage to master it within 3 months,
I'll win,
Yunjin asked hopefully.
No.
Lin Ya replied.
You'll die with the reputation of a sword genius.
Is that a joke? Even with a D-level technique capable of leaping realms, she would at least need to reach the Golden Core stage. 3 months, Golden Core stage, hey, may as well be dreaming. Yunjin pouted.
You all really have that little faith in me. What if I'm actually one of those once in 10,000 years super geniuses? Not only do I have incredible talent in swordsmanship, I'm also amazing in other areas.
Mim, we believe you.
Yue Zhao stood up.
Master, I'll head to the marketplace to exchange for pills.
Nodded.
Go ahead.
Marketplace pills. Yunjin immediately jumped up.
Eldest senior brother, I've never seen a marketplace before. If you're going, can you bring me along?
The truth was, Yunjin felt that directly exchanging spirit stones for pills was a bit of a loss. She could just buy the herbs and refine them herself. It would only cost her some simplification points. This was a perfect opportunity to show off again, to flaunt her earth-shattering talent in alchemy. Sword cultivation. That was far from her final goal. Yue Zhao hesitated. Yunjin looked up at him with big, hopeful eyes. Although he had already seen her chitinite tendencies before, he still couldn't help but soften when she looked at him like that.
Fine,
he said reluctantly.
But you have to listen to me, and you're not allowed to run off.
Got it.
Yunjin agreed immediately. Still skeptical, Yue Zhao gave her a long look. Seeing her honest face, he reluctantly accepted. The region where Tianxing sect was located lay within the borders of Canglan Kingdom. Within Canglan Kingdom, there was one super sect, 10 top-tier sects, 5 mid-tier sects, and countless minor ones. Tianxing sect was now considered mid-tier. In the 100-mile-long mountain range they occupied, there was another mid-tier sect called the Huangshi sect, and several smaller sects survived by relying on the two. The marketplace was located on a stretch of flat land between Tianxing sect and Huangshi sect. When they neared the marketplace, Yue Zhao put away his flying sword. He tossed a mask to Yunjin.
Put this on. It changes your appearance.
As he spoke, he put one on himself and transformed into a middle-aged man. Yunjin thought for a moment, and altered her face into that of a plain-looking young woman. Walking beside Yue Zhao, they now looked like a father and daughter.
I have some business to take care of here. Just follow me for now,
said Yue Zhao. Yunjin nodded obediently. Then she watched as Yue Zhao busily moved between storefronts. He seemed quite popular. No matter where he went, someone greeted him warmly. Yue Zhao also returned each greeting with ease.
These shops, some I gave advice to, others I invested in, and a few rely on my network. So I come regularly to collect earnings,
he explained simply. Yunjin clicked her tongue in amazement. Her eldest senior brother was definitely a transmigrator. No doubt about it. And before transmigrating, he was probably some kind of business prodigy. Yunjin didn't plan to expose him just yet. She just looked at him with wide-eyed admiration.
Eldest senior brother, you're amazing.
But contrary to what Yunjin expected, Yue Zhao didn't look smug. Instead, he sighed.
Xiaojing, in the cultivation world, strength is everything. If I didn't have the strength of a late-stage nascent soul cultivator, no one would be doing business with me. And if I can't go any further, then this is all I'll ever be.
As he spoke, a trace of melancholy appeared on Yue Zhao's face. He had come to this world seeking immortality and the Tao. But alas, everyone has a limit to their talent, and it seemed he had already reached his. Yunjin was quiet for a moment, then said,
Eldest senior brother, don't worry. Everything will turn out fine.
With her around, she would make sure it did.
Let's not dwell on that. Come on, I'll take you to Baicao Pavilion to pick out some pills suitable for the Qi refining and foundation establishment stages,
Yue Zhao said, brushing the matter aside as he led her to their next destination. Inside Baicao Pavilion. While Yue Zhao went to browse the pills, Yunjin's gaze shifted toward a different counter. Chapter 36. Did she really guess correctly? Yunjin found herself walking toward the counter. Lined up neatly were a variety of medicinal herbs, with their prices varying according to type and age. The apothecary behind the counter saw how young Yunjin looked and frowned impatiently.
Little girl, if you're here to look at herbs, go fetch your guardian. Don't stand in the way and block my business.
Although there weren't any other customers around, Yunjin obediently stepped aside. With an innocent expression, she said sweetly,
Big sister, I was wrong. I'll just stand here and watch, is that okay? I don't know why, but looking at these herbs makes me feel warm and familiar. Sister, do you recognize all of them? That's amazing.
The apothecary.
What
did she say earlier? This girl was so well behaved, and she had actually scolded her. She was definitely going to lie awake tonight repenting. The apothecary's expression softened. She replied warmly,
For an apothecary, recognizing herbs is basic training. I'm currently a level 5 apothecary. Next year, I'll be eligible to take the certification to become an alchemist.
A look of longing surfaced on her face.
If I can become an alchemist, even a mere first rank one, that would be a dream come true.
Oh,
Yunjin asked eagerly.
So you have to be an apothecary before becoming an alchemist?
The woman smiled.
Most of the time, yes. But if someone can successfully refine a single batch of even the most basic first-grade pills, they qualify as an official alchemist right away. Those from elite families have access to the best resources from birth. Even if they fail 100 times, they can afford to keep trying until they succeed once. For people like us, without resources or mentors, we can only work our way up through the apothecary ranks and take each exam in turn. It took 5 years for me to rise from level 1 to level 5. That's already considered pretty fast, but the final leap, from apothecary to alchemist, is the hardest.
She sighed as she finished. In this cultivation world, the children of powerful clans played life on easy mode. For ordinary folks like her, every step was a struggle.
I see.
Yunjin nodded thoughtfully.
Where do they conduct alchemist certification exams?
The apothecary smiled.
There's a branch of the Pill Pavilion on the eastern side of the market. You can take the test there. The Pill Pavilion is a coalition of all alchemists and is backed by one of the 4 great holy lands, the Xuandan sect. If someone shows exceptional talent, they might even be directly recruited by Xuandan sect.
Her eyes shone with yearning. Yunjin nodded earnestly. Perfect. Time to take the test. If she wanted to refine a heaven-mending pill within the next 3 months, becoming a certified alchemist was a must. Even if it meant burning through all her simplification attempts. Rising her alchemist rank while mastering the Azure Lotus Sword technique. Suddenly Yunjin realized even 157 simplifications might not be enough. She needed more chances to show off. The apothecary noticed Yunjin's gleaming eyes and mischievous expression, and chuckled.
Little sister, you want to become an alchemist too. That's a lovely dream. But you'll need to take it step by step. If you start now, maybe in 10 years, you'll be a full-fledged apothecary like me. And who knows? One day, you might just make it.
Yunjin nodded seriously.
Yes, big sister, that's exactly how it is.
Her obedient demeanor made the apothecary smile. But then Yunjin's face grew solemn.
Actually, I think I'm a genius. I believe I can skip the steps and become an alchemist right away.
What?
Emotion points plus 30.
Yunjin blinked.
When I become an alchemist, I'll never forget your guidance today. I'll make sure to bring you along for the glory.
The apothecary didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She could only say,
All right. I'll wait for that day.
Yunjin was about to say more, when someone suddenly grabbed her collar and lifted her up. Yue Zhao glared at her.
Yunjing, why are you running off again?
I wasn't running off,
she protested.
I was looking at herbs. Eldest senior brother, instead of buying pills, it's much more cost-effective to buy ingredients and refine them ourselves. There's so much profit margin there. I was trying to save money.
Yue Zhao's mouth twitched.
Who doesn't know refining your own pills is cheaper? The issue is, who's going to do it?
In the entire Tianxing sect, there was only one alchemist above grade 5, the head of refining pill peak, Master Huolie. Other than him, the sect barely had a handful of certified alchemists. If Zhao Wuji asked, they would line up to help. But for their heavenly sword peak, no alchemist would even look their way.
Why ask others?
Yunjin said confidently.
Let's just train our own alchemist.
Yue Zhao tapped her forehead.
And how exactly do we do that? Without any inheritance, how are you going to learn?
Top-tier pill refining techniques were monopolized by the Xuandan sect. Whatever remained was handed down privately through strict lineages. For outsiders to learn, they have to join the sect. And even then, only the most talented had any chance of being accepted. For ordinary people, becoming an alchemist was like reaching for the stars.
I'm such a genius, I think I should give it a try.
Yunjin declared with confidence.
Oh.
The nearby apothecary couldn't help but laugh. Yue Zhao looked thoroughly embarrassed. He clutched Yunjin tightly, ready to drag her away.
Sorry for the disturbance.
What disturbance?
Yunjin clung to a nearby pillar, refusing to budge.
I really believe I have talent in this area.
Yue Zhao's face darkened further. He never should have brought her here. Come to think of it. Why did he think this little junior sister was soft, cute, and harmless when they first met? Where did that illusion even come from? The apothecary chuckled, amused.
Little sister, it's good to have dreams. But things have to be done step by step. To become an alchemist, the foundation is herbal identification. And it's not as simple as just knowing what a plant looks like. Even the same herb can have different properties depending on how and where it was grown. That's why a qualified apothecary must learn how to attune themselves to herbs and sense their unique characteristics. For example, this beating grass. It's the main ingredient for refining beating pills. Why don't you give it a try? Try sensing its medicinal potency and see if there are any secondary properties.
What she really meant was, even becoming an apothecary was hard enough. Never mind becoming an alchemist.
Sure.
Yunjin replied without hesitation.
Eldest senior brother, let me go. I'll give it a shot.
Reluctantly, Yue Zhao loosened his grip. The apothecary smiled.
No harm in letting her try. Kids always think everything is easy until they see for themselves.
岳昭 relaxed a bit and was about to say something when he heard Yunjin's clear, crisp voice.
Beating grass. Age, 50 years old. Potency, 80% remaining. It grew in an overly damp area, so its nature has shifted slightly toward cold. It's best to neutralize it before use.
This kid sure made it sound convincing.
岳昭 was still laughing when he turned to see the apothecary staring at Yunjin, like she had seen a ghost. 岳昭 froze mid-breath. 岳昭.
Ha.
Please don't scare him. That expression. Had Yunjin really guessed correctly? Chapter 37 First Rank Alchemist Exam.
Did I get it right, big sister?
Yunjin beamed at the apothecary. The woman's mind was still reeling, her thoughts a buzzing mess. It took her a while to find her voice again.
How did you know that?
I could tell right away with just a glance.
Yunjin replied matter-of-factly. The apothecary looked devastated. She had spent years honing her skills, and even then, it took focused sensing to get a full read on a herb's qualities. But this little girl could tell with one glance. What was this? The world's favoritism. The commotion drew curious glances from other customers. A crowd began to gather around.
Lance, what's going on?
Even the owner of Baicao Pavilion, a middle-aged man, walked over with interest.
Pavilion Master,
said in a daze.
This little girl identified the herb's properties at a glance.
The Pavilion Master was momentarily stunned. He had spent considerable effort to recruit a level 5 apothecary. And even she couldn't do what this girl had just done. Could this child really be that gifted? A sharp glint flashed in the Pavilion Master's eyes.
Little girl, would you mind identifying a few more herbs for us?
Not at all.
Yunjing agreed instantly. With everyone in the shop drawn over, this was the perfect moment to show off again. How could she possibly let it go to waste?
All right, I'll go grab a few from the storeroom. Please wait just a moment.
The Pavilion Master said.
Hurry.
Yunjing waved with flair. Yue Zhao's lips twitched. The Pavilion Master, to his credit, took it in stride and left with a chuckle. The moment he was gone, Yue Zhao leaned over and whispered.
Baicao Pavilion is a big chain. They dominate 50% of the herb trade in this region. That Pavilion Master may seem easygoing, but he's not someone you want to mess with.
Yunjing blinked.
So.
Yue Zhao lowered his voice even more.
If that last guess was just a lucky fluke, we should leave now. While we still can.
Yunjin rolled her eyes.
Eldest senior brother, relax. I'm really an alchemy genius. Something as trivial as identifying herbs is nothing.
Yue Zhao sighed. He became even more nervous. The Pavilion Master returned quickly, perhaps worried they would try to flee. This time, he brought out 3 carefully selected herbs, each placed in its own ornate box.
You're still in the early stages of cultivation, so I won't make it difficult,
he said with a smile.
These herbs are all below grade 3. Take your time, there's no rush. If you can identify them correctly, I'll give them all to you as a gift.
Yunjing appeared to hesitate. The Pavilion Master was just about to offer reassurance, when Yunjing looked up and said,
If you're giving it away, can I get a few more?
Until she opened her storage ring, she was still technically broke. Might as well take advantage of the opportunity. The Pavilion Master laughed.
Relax. If you truly have such talent, I wouldn't mind giving you as much as you want.
All right.
Yunjing grinned. She opened the first box casually. Inside was a fiery red plant.
Scan.
Blazing flame grass. Detailed information costs 3 simplification attempts.
Yunjin paused in thought. Earlier, the information for beating grass only cost 1 simplification attempt because it was a grade 1 herb. This was grade 3, hence the higher cost. This herb was one of the primary ingredients for refining a restoration pill. Perfect. She can add it to her collection. Yunjin directly used the simplification attempts and accessed the full details instantly. Without saying a word, she glanced over the other 2 herbs. Barely 10 seconds passed before she finished examining all 3 and returned to the group. The surrounding onlookers were curious. She identified the medicinal properties that quickly. This girl isn't afraid of putting on a show. The emotion points from their growing skepticism began trickling into her account. Yunjin smiled faintly and calmly said,
The first one is a grade 3 blazing flame grass, age 95 years old. The medicinal potency was well preserved, still at approximately 98%. However, this specimen was artificially ripened, which introduces a slight chance of combustion during refining.
The pavilion master's expression shifted instantly. Naturally, he knew exactly what he had pulled from storage. Just one glance, and this little girl described it without a single mistake.
The second herb is Blood Illusion Fruit Grade 2. Age. The third is Rainbow Bloom Grade 2.
Without the slightest hesitation, Yunjing finished speaking in one go. Before the pavilion master could even confirm her answers, she casually shoved the 3 herb boxes into Yue Zhao's arms.
Eldest senior brother, hold on to these. They're ours now.
Yue Zhao stood there in a daze, awkwardly smiling at the pavilion master. Was he actually supposed to take them? The pavilion master gave Yunjing a meaningful look, and then broke into a smile.
She's right. The herbs are yours.
Many thanks, Pavilion Master.
Yue Zhao responded. He gathered up the herbs, and couldn't help eyeing Yunjing. Was his little junior sister really a prodigy at alchemy too?
Young lady,
The pavilion master asked carefully.
with such skill at your age, I imagine you must come from a major cultivation clan.
Yunjing,
Pavilion Master Uncle, do I look like I'm from some big fancy clan? If I were, with my kind of talent, I would already be a 9th rank alchemist by now.
the pavilion master's eye twitched. That was quite the boast. Yunjing continued seriously.
You're the first one to notice someone as gifted as me right now. So, want to invest in me? You could give me, say, 100 herbs up front. Once I refine them into pills, I'll repay you with them.
The pavilion master froze.
You're already an alchemist.
Not yet.
Yunjing admitted, shaking her head. He sighed in relief. If she were already an alchemist at her age, that would have been truly terrifying.
But I will be soon,
she added confidently.
I plan on heading to the Pill Pavilion for the certification exam. Isn't that right, eldest senior brother?
She turned to look at Yue Zhao.
Yes.
Of course, with my talent, how could I not become an alchemist?
Yunjing said with confidence. The pavilion master couldn't help but ask.
Have you ever practiced alchemy before?
Nope, but I think I can succeed on my first try.
Yunjing said. She still wore that overly confident look. If she hadn't just identified all those herbs so flawlessly, the pavilion master would have assumed she was just delusional. But now, seeing her self-assured expression, he thought for a moment, then chuckled.
To take the exam, you'll need 10 mid-grade spirit stones. I'll cover that for you. If you pass, I hope you'll consider working with Baitshao Pavilion in the future. If you don't, consider it an investment. How about it?
Even just her herb recognition skills were worth investing in. And if she did become an alchemist someday, his returns would be 100-fold.
Oh no, how could I be that shameless?
Yunjing started to decline.
It's really no tro.
Thank you, Pavilion Master. It's settled then.
She agreed with a bright grin. Pavilion Master.
All right.
Eldest senior brother, I saved us another 10 spirit stones.
Yunjing whispered happily. Yue Zhao was completely numb. This bizarre turn of events had gone far beyond his expectations. He even had no idea how things would pan out. Surely Yunjing wasn't really going to pass the first-rank alchemist exam, right? Chapter 38, Social God. Afraid the pavilion master might change his mind, Yunjing immediately chimed in with enthusiasm.
Let's go, let's go. We're heading straight to the Pill Pavilion together.
The pavilion master, curious to see whether this bold little girl was truly as talented as she claimed, agreed without hesitation.
Sister Latz, you're coming too.
Yunjing called out.
I promised I'll take you along for the glory.
Lanzi agreed in a dazed mumble. But Yunjing wasn't finished. She turned to the rest of the shop, swept her hand dramatically.
Everyone come along. Witness the birth of the youngest first-rank alchemist in history.
Excuse you. You're just going to declare yourself the youngest first-rank alchemist. The results aren't even out yet. Everyone in the shop was mentally screaming. The emotion points trickled in. Yunjing yelled even harder.
It's fate that brought us all to the same shop today. Let's go, nobody's allowed to miss this.
Though this little girl was a bit too weird, the situation was undeniably entertaining. Everyone followed along. So, when Yunjing walked out the door, she had an entire entourage trailing behind her. Yue Zhao rubbed his forehead. He really wanted to pretend he didn't know Yunjing.
Eldest senior brother, hurry up.
Yunjing called cheerily. Yue Zhao followed with heavy steps. At that moment, he had only one thought. Next time, he refuses to come out with Yunjin, even if they beat him to death. Yue Zhao considered himself pretty socially confident. But Yunjin, this type of person is already a social god. How could he compare? While Yue Zhao trudged along under the weight of despair, Yunjin waved to passers-by as they made their way through the marketplace.
Big sister, are you busy? No. Then come along. I'm heading to take the alchemist test. Big brother, let's go. Witness the rise of the youngest alchemist ever. Grandpa, are you picking up eggs? Join our glorious procession.
Yunjin called out to everyone, smiling brightly. She was small and somewhat endearing in appearance, but more importantly, there was a string of people following behind her. Onlookers stared. With so many people following along, there had to be something good going on. And so, as Yunjin called out, the procession only grew longer and longer. Still not satisfied, Yunjin glanced around. Spotting Yue Zhao hiding in the crowd, Yunjin headed straight toward him. Like a snake slithering toward its prey, the whole crowd followed behind. Winding through the street and heading straight for Yue Zhao. The whole scene looked like a winding, hungry snake with poor Yue Zhao as its target. Yue Zhao trembled.
Little junior sister. What now?
Eldest senior brother, my voice is getting hoarse from shouting. Do you have any magical tool that can automatically yell for me? Just lend me one?
Yunjin asked. Shaking, Yue Zhao produced a voice recording stone.
This is a sound stone. You can record your message, and it'll play on loop.
Thanks.
Yunjin grinned, then spun back around, and the entire line turned with her once again. Yue Zhao showed a look of utter despair. Dear God, just end me now. Yunjin recorded her voice and let it play through the sound stone. Moments later, the entire market was ringing with,
Come witness the birth of the youngest alchemist in history.
The procession also grew larger. Yue Zhao was fully numb by now. He used to worry about what would happen if Yunjin failed the test after all this showmanship. But now, only one thought remained. Let the world burn. I'm tired. So what if he died from shame? Is there anything left in this world worth staying for? Eventually, Yunjin's grand parade finally reached the Pill Pavilion. The people from the Pill Pavilion had already heard the shameless slogans echoing down the street. All of them were stunned. In all their years, they had never heard such shameless words before. Everyone came to the front gates to gawk. They wanted to see which legendary figure could be this brazen. Even Master Mingheng, the only third-rank alchemist currently at the Pill Pavilion, stepped outside to see the commotion.
Master Mu.
Seeing Mingheng, the other apprentices quickly made way. Waving them off, Mingheng watched the oncoming procession.
No need to fuss. I just want to see for myself who this youngest alchemist is supposed to be.
Probably some clown. What's the point of this?
Do they like embarrassing themselves?
The apprentices whispered among themselves. Those who could become apprentices at the Pill Pavilion usually have some family background. Even for them, becoming an alchemist took decades of hard work before there was even a sliver of hope. Everyone knows that once you become an alchemist, your status skyrockets. Clearly, this wasn't something just any random person could pull off. Yunjin, however, didn't care about their opinions. As the head of the procession, she confidently marched up to the doors of the Pill Pavilion. It was such a spectacle. The apprentices were actually getting nervous. This really was for the exam, not a prank or a protest. Yunjin quickly zeroed in on Mingheng and flashed a sweet smile.
Uncle, are you the one in charge? I'm here to take the first-rank alchemist assessment.
Mingheng looked intrigued.
So you're the one aiming to become the youngest first-rank alchemist?
Yunjin squinted.
How old is the youngest first-rank alchemist right now?
Mingheng thought for a moment.
There's a prodigy from Xuandan sect who refined their first grade 1 pill at the age of 6.
Yunjin blinked.
What about second rank?
Mingheng thought again.
The same genius reached second rank at 10.
Yunjin.
Third rank.
Mingheng smiled knowingly.
Still him at 18.
Yunjin let out a breath of relief.
I'm 15. Don't worry. I'll directly jump 3 ranks in a year and challenge the youngest third-rank title instead.
Mingheng hadn't said anything yet. The surrounding apprentices couldn't continue listening anymore.
Quit boasting. Jumping 3 ranks in a year, who do you think you are?
Yunjin replied seriously.
My name doesn't matter right now. One day you'll go out of your way to learn it.
That arrogance. The apprentice's expressions became twisted. Minheng, however, chuckled.
So you want to take the first rank exam? Because ingredients are needed during the test, a fee is needed.
Yunjin stepped aside, revealing the pavilion master behind her. Minheng was surprised.
Master?
Chen Changrong's eye twitched.
Don't worry, Master Min. I'll cover the cost this time.
He handed over 10 mid-grade spirit stones. Minheng accepted them nonchalantly, then said,
Very well. I'll be your proctor today. Come with me.
Wait a second.
Yunjin interrupted abruptly.
Him?
Minheng raised an eyebrow. Yunjin quickly said,
Master Min, there are so many uncles, aunties, brothers, and sisters following me. I promised them that they could witness this with me. If possible, could the alchemy furnace be brought outside? I want to refine the pill in public.